The stars had always been full of life. Thousands of species lived among them. They built empires. They fought wars. They traded and talked and grew old under alien suns. And for most of galactic history, Earth was just a small blue rock spinning in a forgotten corner of space. Not then humans arrived. Admiral Una Park remembered the day humanity made first contact. She was just a child then, watching the news with her grandmother. Strange ships had appeared above Sol. The world held its breath. But the aliens did not attack. They came with translators and gifts and invitations to join something called the Galactic Coalition. That was 300 years. Ago. Now, Una stood on the observation deck of the Diplomatic, station called Harmony Point. She wore her dress uniform, metals shining under the soft lights. Through the window, she could see ships from a dozen different species coming and going. Some were beautiful. Some were ugly. All of them belonged to the Coalition. A young officer walked up to her. His name was Tae Kim, and he served as her second in command. "Admiral," he said quietly, "the Vrelox delegation has arrived." Una did not turn from the window. "How many ships?" "3, all military class." She nodded slowly. The Vrelox always brought military ships. It was their way of reminding everyone who held the real power in this part of the galaxy. The Vrelox Empire was old. It was strong. It had conquered 43 species over the centuries, turning proud civilizations into slaves and servants. Their ships were the biggest. Their weapons were the deadliest. And they looked down on everyone else like insects beneath their feet, especially humans. Una finally turned from the window. Her face showed nothing. "Let them wait," she said. "I need to finish my tea." Tae smiled slightly. He had served with the Admiral for 15 years. He knew that calm face hid something sharp underneath. But he also knew she would never show it. Not to anyone. The diplomatic reception began an hour later. The great hall of Harmony Point, filled with beings of every shape and size. There were the tall, thin Melodai with their musical voices. The rock-like Gorvins who moved slowly but thought deeply. The insectoid Cricks who always traveled in groups of 12. And of course, the Vrelox. They stood in the center of the room like they owned it. Their leader was called High Commander Vorth. He was 8 feet tall, covered in dark scales, with forearms and eyes that burned like hot coals. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like thunder. "Where are your warships, human?" Vorth asked Una. His mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. "I see only trade vessels and passenger carriers. Do you not believe in strength?" Una bowed politely. It was the human custom. "We believe in many things, High Commander. Trade, friendship, good food." She gestured to the table nearby, where human chefs had prepared dishes from Earth. "Please try the dumplings. They are my grandmother's recipe." Vorth stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was an ugly sound. "This is why your species will never matter," he said. "You are soft. You are weak. You care about recipes while real powers shape the galaxy." Other aliens in the room grew quiet. They watched the exchange with nervous eyes. Everyone knew it was dangerous to insult the Vrelox. But insulting humans? That was safe. Humans never fought back. Una simply smiled. "Perhaps you are right, High Commander. We are simple people. We like our gardens and our songs and our children. We have no desire for conquest." "Then you will always be prey," Vorth said. "Remember that, little human. When the strong grow hungry, the weak get eaten." He turned and walked away, his officers following like shadows. The room slowly returned to normal conversation, but the tension remained. Tae appeared at Una's side. "That was humiliating," he whispered. "Was it?" Una picked up a dumpling and ate it slowly. I thought it was informative. Across the galaxy, humanity continued its quiet existence. Human traders traveled from world to world, selling Earth goods and buying alien treasures. Human scientists asked endless questions about everything they saw. Human diplomats attended every meeting, took every note, smiled at every insult. The other species found them strange but harmless, like friendly pets that had somehow learned to build spaceships. On the colony world of New Bizon, life was simple and good. 12 million people lived there, mostly farmers and teachers and craftsmen. The planet had rich soil and clean water and gentle seasons. Children played in green fields while their parents worked the land. Governor Hana Cho loved her world. She had been born there, raised there, and chosen to lead there. Every morning she walked through the capital city, greeting shopkeepers and farmers by name. Every evening she watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Do you ever worry?" her assistant asked one day. "About the Vrelocks, I mean. They have been expanding their territory. New Bizon is close to their border." Hannah looked out her window at the peaceful streets below. "The coalition protects us," she said. "And even if they did not, what could we do? We are farmers, not soldiers. Some say Earth has a hidden fleet, ships that no one has ever seen." Hannah laughed softly. "Stories to scare children. Earth has never fought a war in space. We would not know how. Far away, in a place that existed between the folds of normal space, something waited. It was dark and vast and patient. It had been waiting for 300 years. Inside that darkness, ships floated in perfect formation. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. Their hulls were black as night, their weapons cold and sleeping. The men and women who crewed them spent their lives in silence, training for a day they hoped would never come. General Minho Lee stood on the bridge of the largest ship. He was an old man now, gray-haired and tired, but his eyes were sharp as knives. "Status report," he said quietly. "All systems ready, General. Fleet is at full strength. Weapons are armed." Minho nodded slowly. He looked at the darkness outside his window and thought about his grandchildren on Earth. They did not know this place existed. No one did. That was the point. 300 years, he murmured to himself. 300 years of smiling and bowing and eating insults like they were food. He closed his eyes. "I pray we never have to show them the truth." In the quiet darkness, the hidden fleet waited. And the galaxy continued to believe that humans were harmless. They would soon learn otherwise. The morning started like any other. On New Bizon, the sun rose slowly over the eastern mountains, painting the sky in soft shades of gold. Farmers walked into their fields. Children ran to school with books under their arms. In the capital city, shops opened their doors and the smell of fresh bread filled the streets. Governor Hana Cho was in her office, signing documents and drinking her morning tea. Her assistant had brought her a plate of sweet rice cakes, her favorite. Through her window, she could see the central plaza where people were setting up for the weekend market. She smiled. Life was good. Then the sky turned red. The first warning came too late. Coalition sensors had not detected the Vrelocks fleet until it was already in orbit. 12 warships, their weapons charged, their shields raised. They had come through uncharted space, avoiding all normal travel routes. High Commander Vorith stood on his bridge, looking down at the small blue world below. His orders were clear. The Vrelocks High Council had decided that humanity needed a lesson. They had demanded tribute, and the humans had refused. Now they would learn what happened to those who defied the Empire. "Begin bombardment," Vorith said calmly. Beams of white fire fell from the sky. Hana felt the building shake before she saw anything. Then the window exploded inward, throwing her against the wall. She struggled to her feet, blood running down her face, and looked outside. The plaza was gone. Where families had been setting up market stalls just moments ago, there was now a crater filled with smoke and flame. Buildings collapsed like toys kicked over by a giant child. People ran screaming through the streets, but there was nowhere to run. More beams fell. The hospital vanished. The school where children had been starting their lessons became a pile of burning rubble. The farms outside the city caught fire, their crops turning to ash in seconds. Hannah stumbled to her communication console. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely press the buttons. But she managed to activate the emergency broadcast. "This is Governor Hannah Cho of New Bizan," she said, her voice breaking. "We are under attack. Frelok's forces. They are killing everyone. Please, someone help us. Please." The ceiling above her cracked. She looked up and saw fire pouring through. She had time to think of her daughter, safe on Earth, before everything went white. The transmission lasted 17 seconds. It reached every human colony, every Earth station, every ship in the fleet. It reached the United Earth Council chambers, where leaders sat in comfortable chairs discussing trade agreements. It reached Admiral Yuna Park on Harmony Point, where she was eating breakfast alone, and it reached the hidden fleet in Fold Space, where General Minho Lee watched with eyes that showed no expression at all. 17 seconds of screaming, 17 seconds of fire, 17 seconds that changed everything. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. They watched the footage on giant screens, on personal devices, on anything that would show them what had happened. No one spoke. No one moved. 12 million people had lived on New Bizan. Men, women, children. Farmers and teachers and artists. All gone in minutes. In the council chambers, President Sora Han stood before the gathered leaders. She was a small woman, gray-haired and soft-spoken. She had spent her entire career avoiding conflict, seeking peace, building bridges. Now her eyes were hard as stone. "They did not warn us," she said quietly. "They did not make demands. They simply killed everyone." She paused, letting the words sink in. "This is not war. This is murder. What do we do?" asked one of the council members. His voice shook. "The coalition will condemn them. They might even impose sanctions." Sanctions. Sora said the word like it tasted bitter. "They burned our children alive, and we will give them sanctions." The room fell silent. Sora turned to a screen on the wall. On it appeared the face of General Minho Lee. He looked calm. He always looked calm. "General," Sora said, "I assume you have been watching." "I have, Madam President. For 300 years, we have kept the faith. We have smiled. We have bowed. We have hidden what we truly are." Sora closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, there were tears on her cheeks. "I am so tired of smiling." Minho nodded slowly. "What are your orders?" "Activate the fleet. Find the Vreloks." "And them? And after that?" Sora looked at the image of New Bizan still burning on another screen. "After that, we show the galaxy who we really are. God help them all." The connection ended. Minho turned to his officers. They were all standing at attention, waiting. Some had tears in their eyes. Some had jaws clenched with rage. All of them had trained their entire lives for this moment. "You heard the president," Minho said. "Wake the fleet. Activate all weapons systems. Plot coordinates for the Vrelok's home system." "Sir," one officer said hesitantly, "if we use the full arsenal, there will be nothing left. No ships, no stations, no." "I know." The officer swallowed hard. "Understood, sir." Throughout the hidden fleet, lights came on for the first time in decades. Engines that had been cold and silent began to hum with power. Weapon systems that had never been fired powered up one by one. Admiral, Una Park received her orders on Harmony Point. She read them twice, then walked to her quarters and changed into her combat uniform. It was black, with no medals, no decorations. She looked at herself in the mirror. 300 years of peace, she said to her reflection. 300 years of being laughed at, mocked, treated like children. She touched the pin on her collar, the only symbol she wore. It showed Earth, small and blue, circled by olive branches. You should have left us alone. Commander Tae Kim found her in the corridor an hour later. He was also in combat dress. The diplomatic ships are leaving, he said. The aliens think we are running. Una almost laughed. Let them think that. It will make things easier. What about the coalition? They will try to stop us. They cannot stop what they cannot see. Una began walking toward the hangar bay. And by the time they see us, it will already be over. Across the galaxy, human ships went dark and disappeared from sensors. Trade vessels, exploration ships, diplomatic cruisers, all of them vanished like ghosts fading into mist. The Vrelok's High Council received reports of the disappearances and laughed. The humans were running away, just as they had always known they would. Soft creatures, weak creatures, not worth the effort of a second attack. They congratulated Vareth on his successful mission. They toasted to the glory of the Empire. They made jokes about human cowardice. And in the darkness between stars, the hidden fleet began to move. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. Now they would pay for it. The Galactic Coalition Assembly was the largest building in known space. It floated in orbit around a neutral world, a massive structure of glass and metal, where representatives from 500 species gathered to discuss the affairs of the galaxy. Here, wars were debated. Treaties were signed. The fate of billions was decided by votes and speeches. Ambassador Jiwoo Beek had been coming to this place for 30 years. She knew every corridor, every chamber, every hidden corner where deals were made in whispers. She had shaken hands and claws and tentacles with creatures from worlds whose names she could barely pronounce. She had smiled through insults and kept her temper through provocations. Today, she was not smiling. She stood outside the main assembly chamber, wearing traditional Korean clothing. The silk hanbok was deep blue with silver embroidery, the kind of dress her grandmother had worn for important occasions. It felt right to honor the old ways today. Ambassador. A young aide hurried up to her. His name was Junno, and he had been assigned to her just 2 years ago. The chamber is ready. But I should warn you, the Vrelok's delegation is already inside. They seem pleased with themselves. Of course they are. Ji-woo adjusted her collar. They just murdered 12 million people and faced no consequences. Why wouldn't they be pleased? Ma'am, are you sure about this? Once you make this declaration, there is no going back. Ji-woo looked at the young man. He was scared. She could see it in his eyes. But he was still here, still standing by her side. That meant something. Chun-ho, she said gently, do you have family on Earth? Yes, ma'am. My parents and my sister. I have a daughter. She just had her first child last month. A little boy. Ji-woo felt her heart tighten. I want that boy to grow up in a galaxy where people like the Vreloks cannot murder innocent families without consequence, even if that means burning everything down first. She walked toward the chamber doors. They opened automatically, revealing the vast circular room beyond. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in tiered seating, their eyes turning toward the small, human woman entering alone. At the center of the room was a raised platform with a single podium. Behind it, the seats reserved for the human delegation sat empty. Ji Woo climbed the steps slowly, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. High Commander Vorth sat with the Vrelok's delegation, his burning eyes fixed on her. He looked amused, like a predator watching a small animal wander into its den. Ji Woo reached the podium and stood before the galaxy. 300 years ago, she began, her voice clear and steady. A small species from a small world discovered they were not alone in the universe. They were frightened. They were amazed. They looked at the stars and saw wonders beyond imagination. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the chamber. They also saw violence, war, conquest, species enslaving other species, empires rising on mountains of bones. And they made a choice. They chose to be kind, to be patient, to smile and bow and learn and wait. Voreth made a sound of contempt. Several delegates nearby shifted uncomfortably. We watched the Vrelok's empire grow, Ji Woo continued. We watched them conquer 43 species. We watched them burn cities and enslave children and laugh at the suffering they caused. And we waited. We hoped the galaxy would handle its own problems. We hoped someone else would stand up. Her voice grew harder. No one did. So we kept waiting, kept smiling, kept being the harmless, foolish humans that everyone found so amusing. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small device. Yesterday, the Vreloks attacked our colony of New Bizin. 12 million. People, farmers, teachers, children, gone. In 17 seconds. She placed the device on the podium. This is not a request for coalition intervention. This is not a plea for justice. The coalition has proven it has no interest in justice. Ji Woo looked directly at Vorth. This is a formal declaration of war against the Vrelok's empire, submitted in accordance with Galactic Charter, Section 9, Article 7. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted and gestured. Some laughed in disbelief. Others looked horrified. Voreth rose from his seat, his massive form towering over everyone around him. He pushed through the crowd until he stood at the base of the platform, looking up at the small human woman. "You cannot be serious," he said. His voice carried through the chaos, silencing the room. "We have 10,000 warships. We have weapons that can crack planets like eggs. What do you have? Trade ships? Passenger carriers?" He laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "We will destroy every human world. We will hunt your species to extinction. And when we catch you, little ambassador, I will personally feed you to my hunting beasts." Ji Woo did not flinch. She did not step back. She simply looked at him with eyes that showed no fear at all. She said quietly. Voreth frowned. "What? You said you have 10,000 warships." Ji Woo tilted her head slightly. "The correct word is had. As of 6 minutes ago, you had 10,000 warships." The chamber went absolutely silent. Voreth's communicator buzzed. Then buzzed again. And again. He looked at it, his expression changing from confusion to disbelief to something that might have been fear. "That's impossible," he whispered. "We spent 300 years smiling," Ji Woo said. Her voice was soft now, almost gentle. 300 years learning everything about you. Your ships, your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses. She picked up the device from the podium. "Did you really think we were just asking questions because we were curious?" Voreth's communicator screamed with incoming alerts. Around the chamber, other delegates were receiving messages too. Gasps echoed through the room. Some beings simply stared at their screens in shock. "Your fleet at New Bizin is gone," Ji Woo continued. "Your patrol fleets in Sectors 7 through 20 are gone. Your home defense force is gone. Your shipyards are gone. Your weapons factories are gone. She stepped down from the platform, walking toward Vorath until she stood directly before him. Your Empire High Commander is gone. For the first time in his long life, Vorath felt something he had never experienced before. True fear. What are you? He managed to ask. Chi Wu smiled. It was not a kind smile. We are humans, she said. And you should have left us alone? She turned and walked toward the exit. The chamber parted before her like water before a ship. No one spoke. No one moved out at the door. She paused and looked back. The war is over, she said. Victory came in 6 minutes. Anyone who wishes to rebuild the Vrelok's military will face the same fate. Her eyes swept across the assembled delegates. Be kind to each other. That is all we have ever asked. Be kind, and you will never see what we can really do. She walked out, and the doors closed behind her. In the silence that followed, the galaxy began to understand that everything had changed. The truth about humanity was hidden in a place called the Fold. It was a gap in space itself, a pocket dimension that existed between the normal stars and planets of the universe. Coalition scientists did not know it existed. Vrelok scanners could not detect it. For 300 years, it had been humanity's greatest secret. Dr. Yoonji Yoon had discovered the Fold when she was just 28 years old. She was working on faster-than-light communication when her equations revealed something unexpected, a wrinkle in the fabric of reality where things could be hidden from the rest of the universe. She told no one except the United Earth Council. That was 260 years ago. Since then, humanity had built an empire in the darkness. Not an empire of conquest, but an empire of preparation. Shipyards that could construct vessels invisible to all known sensors. Weapons laboratories were the greatest minds in human history, developed tools of war that broke every law of physics the galaxy understood. Training facilities where soldiers spent their entire lives preparing for battles they hoped would never come. Engineer Doyen Shin was one of those scientists. He had spent 40 years developing what he called displacement warheads, weapons that could teleport matter across vast distances in an instant. His first successful test moved a small rock from one side of a room to another. His final design could transport an entire warship into the heart of a star. Captain Kyung No commanded the flagship of the Hidden Fleet. His ship was called the Hansen, named after an ancient naval battle where a small Korean fleet had destroyed a much larger enemy force. The name felt appropriate. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Targets are locked. Weapons are charged. Kyung looked at the main display. It showed the entire Vrelok's military 10,000 warships spread across multiple star systems. The home fleet guarded their capital world. Patrol fleets watched the borders. Construction ships built new weapons at massive orbital factories. None of them knew the human fleet existed. None of them could see the 1,200 black ships now emerging from the Fold like shadows given form. Open a channel to all commanders, Kyung said. The faces of other captains appeared on his screen. Men and women who had trained in secret their entire lives, who had said goodbye to families that did not know where they were going, who had carried the weight of this responsibility through decades of waiting. You all know why we are here, Kyung said. You saw the footage from New Bizen. You saw our people die. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the arms of his chair tightly. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you hurt humanity. Today, we remind them why the old stories called us the most dangerous species that ever lived. He paused. Make it quick. Make it complete. Leave nothing behind. The channel closed. Kyung turned to his weapons officer. Begin. What happened next took exactly 6 minutes and 14 seconds. The first wave targeted the Vrelok's home fleet. 1,200 ships, supposedly the most powerful armada in the galaxy, guarding their capital world. The human fleet did not engage them directly. Instead, displacement warheads tore holes in reality itself, teleporting the Vrelok ships across impossible distances. Some appeared inside stars, their hulls vaporizing instantly in the nuclear fire. Others materialized in the crushing gravity wells of black holes, stretched into streams of atoms before they could even realize what had happened. A few were transported into deep space, so far from any star that their crews would die of cold and darkness long before rescue could arrive. The Vreloks, admirals, had no time to react. One moment their fleet was intact. The next, it simply ceased to exist. The second wave hit the patrol fleets. Human ships used technology called fold jumping to appear directly beside their targets, fire, and vanish before counterattacks could be launched. But they barely needed to fire. The displacement warheads did most of the work, erasing ship after ship with silent efficiency. On one Vrelok's cruiser, a young officer watched his sensor display in horror. Green dots representing friendly ships were disappearing, so fast the computer could not keep up. He tried to send a warning to High Command, but there was no High Command anymore. There was nothing anymore. His ship shook once, and then he was floating in the vacuum of space, watching his vessel fold in on itself like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. The third wave targeted infrastructure, shipyards, weapons factories, communication arrays, training facilities, fuel depots. Everything the Vrelok's empire needed to rebuild its military strength vanished in minutes. General Minho Lee watched from the command center of the Hansen. His face showed no satisfaction, no triumph, only a deep, tired sadness. Casualties? He asked. Vrelok's military personnel, approximately 2 million, an officer reported. Civilian casualties, 0. All targets were military only. Min Ho nodded. And our losses? None, sir. They never saw us coming. On the Vrelok's homeworld, people looked up at the sky and saw nothing. Their defensive fleet was gone. The orbital stations that had always protected them were dark and silent. For the first time in their species' history, they were completely vulnerable, but no attack came. Instead, a message broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the empire. People of the Vrelok's empire, your military has been destroyed. Your government is dissolved. Your leaders will face justice for their crimes. But you, the common citizens, will not be harmed. Humanity does not make war on innocent people. We never have. We never will. The message continued. You are free now. The species you conquered are free. The empire that burned and enslaved and murdered is over. What you build next is up to you. But know this, we will be watching. And if you ever try to rebuild what was lost, if you ever threaten innocent lives again, we will return. And next time, we will not be so gentle. Captain Kyung stood on his bridge, watching the last Vrelok's warship collapse into a gravity well. His tactical display showed nothing but empty space where an empire's might had once existed. Time since engagement began? He asked. 6 minutes, 14 seconds, sir. Kyung closed his eyes. He thought about his grandfather, who had taught him to fish in the rivers of Korea. He thought about his daughter, who was probably asleep right now on Earth, dreaming peaceful dreams. Send the confirmation to High Command, he said quietly. Tell them it is done. In the Coalition Assembly, Ambassador Ji Wo received the message on her personal device. She glanced at it once, then looked up at High Commander Vorath. 6 minutes, she said softly. That is how long your empire lasted against humanity when we stopped pretending. Vorath said nothing. He could not speak. He could only stare at his communicator, reading report after report of impossible destruction. 300 years of hiding. 300 years of preparation. All for 6 minutes of war. And now the galaxy knew the truth about the quiet species from the small blue world. They had never been harmless. They had simply been patient. The weeks after the war were strange and quiet. Throughout the galaxy, species that had lived under Vrelok's rule woke up to find themselves free. Slave collars stopped working. Prison camps opened their gates. The soldiers who had guarded them simply walked away, too shocked and scared to continue their duties. On 43 worlds, beings who had known nothing but oppression stepped into sunlight for the first time in generations. They did not know what to do with their freedom. Some cried. Some laughed. Some simply stood in silence, unable to believe that the nightmare was finally over. Human aid ships arrived within days. Not warships. Those had already vanished back into the fold. These were medical vessels, cargo carriers, construction crews. They brought food and medicine and building materials. They helped rebuild what had been destroyed. A young Melody, girl named something that sounded like singing wind, approached one of the human workers. She was thin and pale, her musical voice weak from years of poor nutrition. The human woman knelt down to her level. "Are you the ones who freed us?" The girl asked. "We just opened the door," the woman said. "You freed yourselves." "Why? Why did you help us?" The woman looked at the child for a long moment. Then she smiled sadly. "Because someone hurt our family," she said. "And when we went to stop them, we found out they had been hurting yours too. We could not save our people on New Mizzen, but we could save you." The girl did not fully understand, but she remembered those words for the rest of her long life. On Earth, President Sorahan addressed the planet. "We did not want this war," she said. Her voice was tired but steady. "We have never wanted war. For 300 years, we worked to become part of the galactic community. We traded, we learned. We made friends wherever we could." She paused. "But we also prepared, because history taught us that kind words and open hands are not always enough. Sometimes, terrible people do terrible things. And when they do, someone must stop them." Images played behind her. Not images of destruction, but of liberation. Former slaves reuniting with families. Children seeing blue skies for the first time. Worlds beginning to heal. "We will not become conquerors," Sora continued. "We will not build an empire of our own. The human fleet has already returned to its hidden place, and we hope it stays there forever. We want to go back to trading and learning and making friends." Her expression hardened slightly. "But let the galaxy understand this clearly. Humanity will never again watch innocent people suffer while we do nothing. If you enslave, if you murder, if you burn, we will stop you. Not because we enjoy it, not because we want power, but because it is right." In the Coalition Assembly, the empty human seats remained empty for 3 more days. Delegates waited nervously, wondering what would happen next. Would the humans demand tribute? Would they claim territory? Would they reshape the galaxy according to their will? When Ambassador Jiwoo finally returned, she came alone. She walked to the same podium where she had declared war and looked out at the sea of alien faces. "I know you are afraid," she said simply. "I would be too. You just watched the most powerful empire in the galaxy disappear in 6 minutes. You are wondering if you might be next." No one spoke. "You won't be." Ji Woo folded her hands. "Humanity has no interest in ruling anyone. We have farms to tend and children to raise and songs to sing. We like our simple lives." She smiled slightly. "Also, frankly, governing other species sounds exhausting." A few nervous laughs echoed through the chamber. "All we ask is that you be kind to each other," Jiwoo continued. "No more conquests. No more empires built on suffering. No more looking the other way while the strong prey on the weak. Her smile faded. If you can do that, you will never see our warships again. You will only see our traders and scientists and tourists, asking annoying questions about your cultures and trying your foods. She picked up her notes. But if you cannot, if you choose to follow the Vrelok's path, then understand what awaits you. We have been watching the galaxy for 300 years. We know every secret, every weapon, every weakness. She looked at each delegation in turn. Be kind. Be good. Live in peace. That is all we ask. She walked out of the chamber for the final time. 1 year later, Admiral Una Park retired to a small farm on Mars. The red planet had been transformed over centuries. Its thin atmosphere now thick enough to breathe. Its dry valleys now filled with rivers and forests. She built a small house on a hillside overlooking a lake and planted a garden. Commander Tae Kim visited her occasionally. He had been promoted to admiral himself, though he claimed the job was boring now that there was no one left to fight. The galaxy has changed, he said during one visit. They sat on her porch, drinking tea and watching the sunset paint the Martian sky in shades of purple and gold. Species that used to compete for territory are cooperating now. Trade has increased by 300%. Even the former Vrelok citizens are integrating peacefully. Fear is a powerful motivator, Una said. Is that all it is? Fear? Una thought about the question. She thought about New Bizon, about the 12 million people who had died there. She thought about the hidden fleet, still waiting in the fold, ready if needed, but hopefully sleeping forever. No, she finally said. Not just fear. Hope, too. They saw what we did to the Vreloks, but they also saw what we did afterward. We helped the freed species. We rebuilt what was broken. We did not take anything for ourselves. She sipped her tea. They learned that humanity can be terrifying, yes. But they also learned that we would rather plant gardens than fire weapons. So which are we? Gardeners or soldiers? Both, Una smiled. That is what makes us human. In the centuries that followed, the galaxy entered an unprecedented age of peace. Species that had fought for millennia found ways to cooperate. Old hatreds faded. New friendships formed. And always, in the background, humanity watched. They attended festivals and asked questions about alien cuisines. They traded fairly and explored curiously. They raised their children and told them stories of Earth's blue oceans and green forests. To most of the galaxy, they seemed like a friendly, harmless species, slightly odd, endlessly curious, but good neighbors. Only a few remembered the truth. Only a few kept the old recordings of that 6-minute war, watched them in private, and reminded themselves what those smiling, friendly humans could do if pushed too far. General Minho Lee, long retired, spent his final years writing poetry. One of his verses became famous throughout human space. Carved into monuments and taught in schools, we are the gardeners who carry swords. We are the singers who remember war. We choose peace. But peace is not weakness. Kindness has teeth, and mercy has claws. The galaxy never forgot, and they were very, very kind to each other.